Hi, I'm Jenny Lee, and this is Lock 5 Studio, and I am finally recording my much anticipated episode 1 of my ArtCast. I'm going to call it Studio Tuesdays, Lock 5 Studio Tuesdays, and the hope is that I'll load them up on Tuesdays. For real. I know the Fiber Arts one, I say it's Fiber Arts Friday and then I don't get it loaded for a few days. So I'll probably record these before the weekend and then post them on Tuesday. And I won't, at this point, I am not planning on doing both of them once a week because that would be overwhelming. It's already pretty overwhelming doing one. So the goal is that I will toggle them back and forth, and every other week I will post a Lock 5 Fiber Arts Friday. And then on the opposite weeks, I will post a Lock 5 Studio Tuesday. So eventually I won't have as much yarn related content. I don't think that would need a full weekly podcast, and who knows, maybe the art one will actually, because this is actually my job. I had just gotten really sick over the winter, got buried in crochet, and then didn't dig out into the studio really. So the goal is to get back to work. I have all this work around me and I am really excited to dig in. So just like in the Yarn podcast, if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's fun. It's still me, and it's still me being creative. But I may talk about stuff that you don't understand, but you get to see me modeling all kinds of clothes and watch me post videos of our adventures. So anyways, just like the yarn one, I have a huge agenda. And I was initially like not expecting to even do a yarn, or I mean, excuse me, an art podcast. I wasn't even gonna do a yarn one. I just felt like inspired, and I did it. And then people were inspired by it, and it just kept going. And eventually, I was like I decided to like incorporate just some of my artworks in progress that I was working on because I really wanted to get back to work. And the editing process of the other videos, the learning curve is like, so I had a little bit of learning to do, but I'm getting a lot better, and hopefully that won't be consuming as much of my time. So that way I can get into more creative endeavors. I was also kind of buried in pattern testing, which has to do with fiber arts and helping other designers develop their patterns. So anyways, if you don't know about that world, you don't really need to know about it, but sometimes some of us get a little lost in a rabbit hole of pattern testing, and that is me for sure. So anyways, welcome to my studio. I love actually hosting like studio tours and having people come over. My house is full of my artwork, and this is actually our dining room, but it's just the two of us, and we have a eat-in kitchen that actually has a table that seats 8 comfortably in it. And so that's there, and it has an island with stools, and then we have usually where we actually eat at the coffee table when we're watching TV or whatever. Even if we're just playing games, we have a puzzle on it's a giant coffee table. You can like dance on it. It's industrial, so we eat out there really. So then we had this dining room, and it was like, well, what do we need all this space for? It's kind of crazy. Like, we actually have another living room too. When my daughter and my brother were living with us, it made more sense, but now it's just us. So anyways, like when we first got here, I thought maybe my husband would want me to like have my studio in the basement, where I had to have it before. Not because of him, just because of other situations. And he was like, no, like we're not gonna use this. What do we need this for? So this is my Lock 5 studio, and he painted the walls orange for me. And as you can see, it is just full of my stuff. This is probably the neatest corner. So anyways, I will actually also post a clip of, I'll kind of pan around my studio, and so you can kind of see what it looks like. I might clean it up a little bit. It only took me probably 30 minutes to impulsively set up for the YarnCast. And I thought naively, oh, the studio's already intact. It'll be ready to go in no time. Yeah, no, I've been several hours today figuring this out, and I almost thought I'll just record it tomorrow. But no, I really want to do it today. I'm good. I feel good. I look good. I'm ready to go. So this episode is sponsored by Lock 5 Fiber Arts. All things creatively fiber. Right now, most of my fiber arts is crochet. I'm getting back into sewing and all that sort of thing. And I'm hoping to pick up the knitting needles on a project in the near future. So if you're into fiber arts, go check it out. On all of my different platforms, I'm mostly known by the names Lock 5 Studio or Lock 5 Fiber Arts, or both, basically. So I'll just kind of like delineate who's who. On X and on YouTube, obviously, I'm Lock 5 Studio, and that just encompasses my fiber arts as well. But on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, I'm actually separated out into the two separate entities. I don't know for how long I'll do that, or maybe I just will keep doing it. I'm not really sure. And then on Ravelry, I am Lock 5 Fiber Arts, because obviously it's a fiber arts website, and I have one pattern up there right now that I just did. My very first pattern, I wrote it up and did a pattern test, had 8 different ladies testing for me, and did a little pattern release. So that was just one creative endeavor that I was doing on the side when I wasn't feeling all that great. And it was a lot of fun. You know, I was like really kind of like being able to do it for my bedroom, which was awesome. If you like my content and you like any of my social media that you see out there, I would be so grateful if you would like, subscribe, share, hitting that bell, leaving a comment, like one comment. If you're an artist, leave me a little artist emoji in the line, because that tells every platform that really helps the algorithm. But I would be so grateful if you subscribe and if you shared with anybody that you know that is into art or fiber arts or fun stuff like that. Whoops, sometimes I post videos of my husband and I doing different adventures and such, so who knows. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to announce my announcements, and there's just really one big one, I think. I start teaching a watercolor art class starting on Monday here in Saratoga Springs at the Beekman Street Art Center, I think it's called. It's through the Saratoga Arts Council. I'm really excited to be doing this. I haven't taught in person since pre-COVID, actually. My life slowed down a lot when COVID happened. Now, initially when it happened, it didn't. We were crazy busy because my husband and I were contractors, and we had a company actually that we named Lock 5 Fine Finishes, and we were doing all kinds of refinishing work. So when COVID hit, like, things were crazy. And we were super crazy busy because all the people who were building and making things were kind of still doing that. I know that sounds like maybe they shouldn't have been, but that's just the way the world was going. Excuse me. And so, in any case, then that's what happened. I stopped making art and started helping him. And then it took me until just recently to get out of doing that line of work with him and him getting into new work so that I could get back into the studio. So that starts on April 7th, Monday, and it's 1 to 4. So if you haven't signed up, obviously, and you don't know about it, you know, I wouldn't expect you to. I'm not even sure I will get this edited and uploaded before then, but like I said, I'm impulsively doing this, and I'm just throwing my whole self out there. So I got to keep my agenda in front of me, because otherwise I get off topic. First things first, then, I want to do next is recently finished work. So on the Fiber Arts page, I do like Finish Friday, because that's a big thing. So I don't know if that's an art thing, but it should be. So I'm going to do Finished Fridays, even though we're calling it Studio Tuesdays. But I'm going to bring finished work, basically. So one of the pieces that I finished, it's not recently, but it was the most recent watercolor I had finished, is this piece that I call Resurrection. And the reason why I call it Resurrection is because I hadn't done a watercolor in a really long time. I do these big, bold, beautiful watercolors. And I hadn't done one in a long time, like probably over a decade. And so I was just inspired to do a new one. And this was the one I did. So I have, I think, one more that I started working on, but I think the liquid frisket went bad on it. So I'm not really sure if I can really dig back into it. But that's okay. There's always more paint and more paper, right? Some other fun pieces that I do these large acrylic paintings. If you look at my social media, you'll see the big "Oh Taste and See" painting. It's the ice cream cone, my daughter holding the ice cream cone in her hand, in front of the Martha's Ice Cream sign. If you're from the area, then you know Martha's Ice Cream up in Lake George, iconic, amazing ice cream. Peanut butter, soft serve is my favorite, just in case you're wondering. But anyways, this is going to be an acrylic painting. It's on campus. That's a watercolor that I just showed you. Another type of painting that I do are these, what I call the mini abstracts. So this is one of them. And I call this one Never Quite Done, because I do feel like it was never quite done. I was like forever trying to touch up the paint and where it's smooged and spilled over, and I was never happy with it, so I've never really considered it done or shown it to anybody. And I thought, you know what, how fun would it be to pop it up on the podcast so you could see it. You may wonder, what are these and why do I make them? I'll tell you. This is called City Lights. So I make these giant acrylic paintings and I have to pre-mix the paint because generally I'm using a palette of colors. And I'll tell you about that in my works in process. But what happens is I get a lot of leftover paint and I don't want to waste it. So, and it's acrylic paint. So I like to just use it like directly onto canvases in these little mini abstract paintings that, I don't know, they're just fun. I feel like I'm finger painting, sort of. I really like doing them. So I like doing like very realistic. I like doing sort of like conceptual, like this one, which I'll tell you about. And I like doing these kind of just super abstract pieces. I love this one. This is like probably one of my favorite ones, and it's called The Sound of Music. So I will now go over my works in process, and what's fun is I have some of these little mini abstracts lined up here so that you can see what they look like when they're in process. And it just takes many, 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 many layers, and I have many of them going. There's probably 40 of them over on that little, I have a cart over there, and I just have them all going in various stages, and I just add a little bit of paint at a time. Oh, it's just inspiring to even touch them. I want to get in here and paint right now. I'm going to be mixing up the palette for the painting you see behind me, so I can't wait to actually show that to you. But yeah, these are in process, so they're going to go back onto that huge pile later on. Oh, you know what? I forgot to show you a different finished work in progress. Well, it's not a finished work in progress. It's a concept in progress with two finished works I'll show you. I did these in Florida with pan pastels. Are you familiar with pan pastels? They're like disc pastels, basically. Let me grab them. I say them, but in reality I have like 100 colors or something. I wanted to dig into using them. I'm just not super confident in them. And I'm much more confident in these very slow, tedious, sometimes months-long processes. But the neat thing about these paintings is I didn't feel they were done, but my husband and my friend feel that they were. Now there's the first one. That was just going to be the base coat for me. They were like, it's done, don't touch it. Okay. This is the other one. Normally you can't replicate that. And by the way, that took 10 minutes to do. You normally cannot replicate such success. Now this one I think was maybe 20. But again, this was a base coat for me. And they were like, no, it's done. So I'm curious to know what you think. By the way, I have to be very careful because the pastel is fragile. I honestly don't know how to seal it in a good way that it won't turn colors. So I need to learn about that. This is brand new for me. These are the only two I've done. I've done pastels, soft pastels, but these are the pan pastels. And I would love to explore them more. I'm not sure if these are done or not, and not sure how to care for them. So that's where I'm at with the pan pastels. Okay, so let's go on to this one here. Eye on the Prize, this is going to be called. I don't know if you can tell, but they're race cars. They're like F1 cars. And normally, like I was saying, I use like a limited palette of colors. This one, it looks like it's gonna be 9 is what I say. I don't know if that's gonna be accurate, but I'm kind of thinking of this like this range for color basically. So that's been in the works for a while and I just need to like sit down and do it. Why haven't I done it? Because I'm very intimidated to map out those values. I need to just do it. So I have found one way to be much more consistent about getting work done is to go live. I know it sounds crazy, but for me, going live like forces me to get work done. It doesn't make sense for me because I hate being observed, but I don't seem to mind going live and working. And maybe that's just because I've taught for years and I did art demos and stuff. I got over that a long time ago. I started doing art demos and teaching probably in my early 20s. I bet it was like 23, maybe less. I don't know exactly. So just a long time, like 25 years. So I think it's just a space that I understand probably better than any other space. Another piece that I had started in the fall and really didn't make much progress on because it just is a tedious piece. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Not sure if I want to do it. It's like these train, like wheel gears thing from a locomotive. I don't really know. Sometimes I don't know what I'm drawing. I just like the shapes of it. It's like a photograph, like a shiny photo from probably the 90s or something. I don't know where I got it. I don't know where it came from. It's the only one I got. I don't have a digital copy. This is it. And it's got lines and stuff because I'm using the grid system to try to be like super realistic with it. And I love the drawing so much. And it was so hard to do. And once you get the pencil on there, you're kind of committed. And so this is a colored pencil. This is kind of the palette that I have going for it. Okay, so I made like color swatches with all the pencils I have here. So I could try to like match up and test what colors I might use in the composition. And that like lets me know which colors are which. It's not foolproof, but then as I'm using them, I like will mark them up on the page to see, because this is actually a tinted mat board. It's a tinted rag mat board. And so I will like smush the color into it pretty good so I can see what it looks like. And then I'll write down the colors next to it, or I will, if I'm layering colors, I'll like write the order of them down. And the last thing is that I was working on these assignments from the Milan Art Institute. I was starting to like way back in the fall, and I just went through like this difficult time when I found out that my dear friend that I had my whole life unexpectedly had passed away. And I found about it on Facebook, which was really bizarre. So the whole thing was just kind of weird. And I wasn't able to go to any sort of service or anything. So I think that really sent me into kind of a no man's land of like, how can I create right now? And then I got pneumonia and I was sick for so long. So I feel like the last 6 months has been a black hole and I am just so over it. My studio is calling to me and my creative juices are flowing and I just am here for it. So the first assignment that I was supposed to do was this mallard duck. So that's how far behind I am. Thankfully, you have 2 years to complete the program. So even though this is only the first assignment, I still have quite some time left to complete the program. So this is just the underglaze that I did, and now it's ready for the glazing. So that should literally be just a couple of hours of effort that I just need to throw onto the canvas and then call it done and then move on to the next one. None of their projects are actually really meant to be like the type of work that I do, which is oftentimes 30, 40, 50 hours, 100 hours sometimes. So I also think it would be really beneficial to create like art that takes less time. I love my big involved pieces that I do these big series of, but I want to start to create art a lot more consistently in shorter format. So that's going to be one area that I'm going to use you for accountability. That's like what I said on my YarnCast, is that I need accountability. And honestly, the people around you sometimes will either enable you or they just don't understand, what that looks like. They're just like, yeah, So I'm going to just be on here very consistently posting what I'm working on and what my thoughts are and getting feedback from other people, and also trying to engage with other creatives out there so that I too can learn, grow, be inspired, because I think art is like a dialogue and a conversation. So thanks for keeping me on the straight and narrow. I need you. You're amazing for helping me. You have better things to do, and yet here you are, willing to listen to me do a journal entry on what I need to be accountable for. So the next thing I want to do, I hope that she doesn't mind, but I want to do a featured artist that is like a living artist in each of my podcasts. And I don't know too many personally at this moment, just because like I said, COVID kind of halted me and I got out of the community for a while. But I do want to give a shout out to my very dear friend. Her name is Pat Traver. She was a student of mine way back in like 2010 when I had opened up my studio in like a brick and mortar plate glass window storefront place. Because I'm also a custom framer, a certified custom framer. And I really used to love to do that. Like, you can't pay me enough money to custom frame anything now. I do not like doing it. I'm not going to do it. No, don't ask. Nope. Michael's is up the road. Go ahead. No, not doing it. Like, I will actually go out of my way to make art that I don't have to frame. You see that? That's going to hang directly on the wall. You see this watercolor thing? I'm going to use Magnetax probably so that I don't have to frame it. Like, I do not like to frame stuff. That just... yeah. So anyways, so she was coming out of her hairstylist place, and she had been like praying for a sign that she should do something creative with her artwork, that she should do more with it. She had just started to try to dabble in it, and was still pretty... my hot water tank keeps going bam. She was still pretty self-conscious, and I would say underdeveloped. And so I had a sign in the window that I was going to be doing custom framing and art classes and consignment, you know, selling artists' work on consignment and etc. And I was setting up. She pops in the door and she's like, "Hey!" And she was so excited. Said, "I'm going to come back with some artwork, and I just want to hear what you have to say about it. And, you know, I'd be totally interested in taking classes." She came back. I think she was there on the first day that we actually opened, and showed me her work. And I can be a pretty harsh critic, but kind, you know what I mean? So I was kind, but I said, I think you have a lot of potential, but I do think you would benefit from some actual like college level academics basically applied to your artwork. And that may sound snooty, but I benefited so much from getting an art degree. I really did. Even if it was just down at SUNY Albany, it didn't matter. It forced me to think differently. It forced me to make a lot of artwork. It forced me to be able to take a critique in front of many other people, and even if it was not pleasant to hear, to learn and grow from it. And I think that's something that's really lacking in our society. People really struggle to hear anything they don't want to hear, and instantly it's seen as some kind of negative attack on their character. You can't actually improve if all you hear is positive things. So I would say for me, I don't know if art school is the same way, but when I went there right out of high school, it was pretty brutal, and the competition felt pretty fierce at the time. So that's even why I didn't really even go anywhere better than where I went, because I didn't have the confidence to do it. I wanted the art degree, but I didn't really feel confident enough to get it from what I considered a good school, like RISD or whatever. People would say, "Oh, why aren't you going to go here? Why aren't you going to go there?" And it just terrified me, honestly, to like leave my small town and go to away and all that. So I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. I'm very shy. I'm very introverted. That may surprise you watching me do this, but this is in the comfort of my home, and I'm talking to a screen. So even though I know at the end of the day people are going to watch this, I still feel safe. So even when I went to college, I didn't live on campus ever. There was never a time I did. I had kind of emancipated myself from my parents basically and moved out, and I didn't live at home during my senior year, and then I had my own apartment, and I just supported myself going to school. So I was able to get a lot of financial aid because I lived by myself at a very young age. So that's kind of how I did that. So anyways, that being said, Pat and I became fast friends, and over the years, she was just very open-minded about whatever artwork I threw at her. She was so good about receiving critiques. She was so good about busting her butt to be better, to listen, to work hard. She would collaborate on pieces with me. She wouldn't be precious. She wasn't like, so she was just willing to do everything it took and to be vulnerable and to try new things. You know, she had come in kind of like doing oils, but I was like, we're going to do colored pencils. We're going to do watercolors. We're going to do it all. We're going to do charcoal. You need to try it because you need to have that medium teach you something. Even if it over time does not become your preferred medium, it will teach you things. Pat has been a fabulous influence in my life. She has taken on any challenge I've given her, excelled, was able to move down to Florida, and now lives down there working as an artist when she can, like teaching and selling, and she's got a full-time studio going. So I am so proud of her. I'm so happy for her. I'm jealous of her location. I'm going to move on to my favorite materials. And because I'm going to be teaching the watercolor class starting on Monday, I thought I would actually go over some of those materials because they are my favorite. What I like to use when I am painting is really specific. I do not believe that you can have a successful watercolor painting of this nature using any paper, any brush, and any paint. I know that sounds snobby, and I am so cheap. I will buy a crappy I will pick up a crappy big box store print on a canvas and like re-gesso it and paint over it. I don't care. I'm not snooty, but with watercolors, you just cannot get the effects you want if you use crappy materials. So first things first, paper is super important. I use Arches watercolor paper. This is actually a small piece on a watercolor block. Not sure what's on here right now, nothing. A lot of marks of pencil. This is a watercolor block. I don't generally paint on that because I oftentimes paint on these big loose pieces of paper. That's actually called like elephant paper. It comes in these huge sizes. I think it's 28 by 41 inches. I had ordered a ream of it many years ago, and it takes a long time for me to go through it. So I can't even tell you how much it is at the time. It was expensive. It's probably more than ridiculously expensive now, but anyways, I use like exclusively Arches watercolor paper. I do like the cold press better than the hot press. I'm not exactly fond of really slippery, slick surfaces. I'm also not a big fan of the rough. I don't like the really rough surfaces. So that cold press is like a compromise in between the two, and I just like it the best. The elephant paper is actually my preferred watercolor paper, but you have to buy it in these giant sheets and then tear it up. But I do have 22 by 30 inch pieces of Arches paper as well that I use sometimes, or I use a half sheet, just depending upon what I'm doing. For brushes, I'm ridiculously particular about brushes. I ordered these so long ago, I'm not going to lie, I don't even know if you can order them anymore. I've had them for so long. I've tried to take really good care of them. Blue-handled ones are Da Vinci Cosma Top Mix, and they are actually a natural fiber brush, which is like a Russian squirrel of some sort, and they are pretty pricey once you get to the bigger sizes. But I have these basically for my water washes. I do not put these into pigment ever. These just apply water to my paper. Once I have the water wash down on the paper the way that I want it to be, then I will go in with my pigment brushes. And going in with my pigment brushes would basically look like having these, whoops, they do sometimes come undone, as you can see. I'll just glue it again. These only use pigment, basically. These are Da Vinci Cosma Top Spin. And these are synthetics. And these are what I kind of like drop the pigment into the water wash that's on the paper. These are my favorite brushes for applying the pigment, basically, because they come to a point really well. They snap, they have good spring, and they hold a ton of pigment. So I really, really appreciate them for that. They also take a long time to get messed up, and probably this one is messed up because of me smushing it into the bottom of my water tub. That's on me. I also must have these in my arsenal and can't honestly talk about watercolor brushes unless I mention these. These are Fritch scrubbers, and again, I don't know if these are things you can order or not. I've had these for so long. And they help me to essentially erase areas that I am not super happy with. And they have been, in fact, this one I really do need to replace because it looks terrible. Over time, they get kind of yucky, but they help me to scrub out pigment that I don't like. So they're an important part of my arsenal as well. For paints, I'm a little bit less picky. The watercolor paper, that's it. That's all I'm choosing. Watercolor brushes, I'm pretty picky about the synthetic ones. Sometimes I find like a cheapo that I really like, or an off-brand that I really like, and it will get added in. The water ones, I've never found anything else that I can use. It has to be these. So if these ever go defunct and then I can't find replacements, I don't know what I'll do, but for now, I rely on them heavily. Paint, I'm a little less particular about, but I'm still fairly particular about. So the ones that I don't mind using so far, and I'm willing to try other ones, and these aren't like the highest range paints, by the way. I don't use anything ridiculously high end. I don't use anything terribly low end, but I don't use anything like out of range. The Winsor & Newton paints, I think, are a normal popular choice for watercolors, and I think they're pretty good. I try to pay attention whether or not I'm using a transparent or an opaque or whatever. That matters to me. I make a lot of paint charts. You can see one, right? If I know how to point. There we go. I have another one looking across from me with all the colors on it. I like Winsor & Newton, and Holbein is another one that I really like. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Forgive me. And then Core is another one. Again, not sure if I'm saying these right. Q-O-R. So I like all of these as brands so far. Doesn't mean I won't use other brands. I try to keep a simple palette when I'm painting, so paints last me so long. I don't use a ton of them in each painting. As you can see, I have a ton of them, and years it takes to go through them. So my favorite tools besides the brushes and paint and paper are my water containment devices. I do not ever leave home without the handy dandy mister, so any recycled old mister, and then my recycled tubs, and I like to keep the lids so that I can like seal the water in case I was coming and going. I have a sink in the next room over, but I mentioned that my first studio was like in a basement and there was no sink down there. So I would have I wanted clean water. So I would keep 3 tubs of clean water at a time next to my station and work the brush through them so that I always ended in clean water, and that way I wasn't having to constantly change out the tubs and run up and down the stairs. That was probably not a good idea because I kind of got heavy and then I had to go and lose weight, but in any case, it came up with a great way to make sure that my brush is always dunked into clean water, and if I have clean water in it, then I'm not wasting it. I can cover it and use it the next day. So those are my 2 favorite watercolor hacks that I use pretty much every single time I am working on a watercolor. One of my best scores, I'll change mediums a little bit, but another kind of like hack type thing. This is something that I don't know what this was, this weird thing that I found on the side of the road, this white thing. If you know, you can leave a comment, but so I have one like slid inside the other one, and then I used, now this one, this middle part is attached to this one. This isn't attached to this though. And so this is taped in place, and then I taped it to like a rotating base that was separate. I think I paid like $8 for the rotating base, and it was for something else entirely. And then I didn't use it, and it had been sitting in my house for like 2 years. And so I found these on the side of the road, and I had this sitting here doing nothing. And I was like, you know what that is? That is a pencil holder right there. That is a colored pencil holder right there. So that is probably one of my favorite hacks that I'm using right now when I work on the train painting that I'm calling All Aboard. The next little fun thing is I like to say what I'm wearing in my studio for the day. Everyone is always like thinking it's so funny that I'm painting in dresses. I'm like, but don't you follow Instagram artists? They're all like painting in dresses, I guess. Maybe when they're really painting, they're wearing sweats. I'm really not. I'm really wearing this. So you might see me cleaning in this. You might see me painting in this. You might see me like going out to dinner in it. It's just, for me, they're all one and the same. Eventually, clothing has to be like phased out of public use because it gets grimy, but mostly I just use, or I just wear what I have, you know, that I like. So this was on clearance. I'm going to back up here. Old Navy, I think like $10. And it's like one of my favorite dresses. I don't know why my husband doesn't really like it, but I really like it. It's super comfy. It's one of my favorite dresses to wear in the studio. So I have this one on today because it's one of my faves. And the earrings I made myself. They are a Wellstone Creations design. And she makes all these different types of patterns. Earrings are one of them. I think she has 3 or 4 earrings patterns out there. And I've done several tests for her. So I love having all these earrings now. And they're so light. I used to not wear earrings because I couldn't stand the weight of them, but these don't bother me a bit. I wear them all the time. So that's my studio vibe for the day. And, oh, I was supposed to mention about me first, but that's okay. We'll go into that. I love to shop clearance and I love to thrift. Why is that? Because I grew up ridiculously poor. And so I was the lucky recipient of people always bringing me bags of clothes and like kitchen bags or kitchen bag. Yeah, in garbage bags of clothes because I was smaller than everybody. I'm only 5 feet tall right now, and I have like a size 4.5 ring. So I was just a really petite little girl growing up, and we didn't have any money, and so my friends' parents would like encourage them to go through their wardrobe and clean out any clothes that they didn't want, and then they would put them all in a garbage bag and they would bring them over to the house. And then my friends would be like, oh, this will look so good on you. And I was always so embarrassed. I was mortified. I hated it. I'm like, why can't we just go to the store and buy me clothes like a normal person? But now it's like the only way I live. So I hated it then, but thanks, Mom. I don't hate it now. I have such a appreciation for thrifting. My mom would just be like, be gracious. These people are being nice, you know? So I learned over time that getting stuff for nothing is a lot better than sweating out hard-earned money for stuff that's going to deteriorate and go by the wayside anyway. So there's no reason to expend your life trying to buy things that just deteriorate, you know? It's not a good investment. So that is about me. It's just, we didn't grow up having very much at all. We were the recipient of like food baskets, honestly, and like handouts like that. We just, you know, there was just a lot of, it was a tough childhood, you know. I didn't like the free lunches because you had to have like the red tickets, and the kids knew if you had the red ones, that was all free. Blue, you know, you guys had to pay a little bit, but if you had the red ones, wow, you know. There was no like debit card PIN number thing back then. They liked to make sure that they shamed you into not being poor. So I would just skip lunch most of the time, which is not really wise. So anyways, you know, growing up, I guess, like that gave me an appreciation for all things thrifted. So over the course of this art podcast, I hope to kind of go through my studio here and there and show you what I've repurposed, thrifted, used, found off the side of the road. Pretty much everything that you are looking at, unless it's a piece of artwork by me. Oh, the live on air sign, I bought it on Amazon. I couldn't resist. $28 though. So, what I am going to do next is my rants, and I probably should have brought it closer to the artwork because it's about, as an artist, even in the Fiber Arts accounts, I get all of these rando DMs from strange people like every day. Hey there, I see your artwork is beautiful. I love to buy your work. Please DM me for information or something very bizarre. And I'm like, no, you know, no thanks, I'm good or whatever. And like one guy recently just got aggressive with me. He's like, why are you ignoring my important business messages? And I was like, I don't owe you a response to anything, you know, at all. What? it's just really funny because I feel like if people are interested in you or your artwork or your story or whatever, they're not going to just like not introduce themselves, not give you context, and just start like demanding that you turn over your intellectual property to them. I think the thing that I get contacted for the most is the NFT thing. Constantly like, do you do NFTs? Have you thought of NFTs? Whatever. And if you just ignore them, then you can do that. If you talk to them at all, then you find that they want to pressure you into signing up to transform your artwork into NFTs. And I would never do anything like that. I don't even know what that is. But I found out a little bit about it. I did some research so I could like kind of play with these people a little bit. And I was like, oh yeah, I know all about it. Totally. And he's like, oh, but I can offer you $10,000 per work. And I'm like, I was already offered 15. And it was like, what? What? How is this possible? It's just really funny how they get really aggressive and offended. Like if you're not desperate and you don't act like you're so desperate, then they don't know what to do with you. I've literally had some of the responses be like, just bizarre. Like, I do not know how you know what you're talking about. And it's like, do you think you're making yourself more desirable to be worked with by being so rude? And they're always just so rude. I've never had somebody say, oh my gosh, your art is so amazing. If you ever wanted to talk about it or anything, just let me know, no pressure. No, they're like, hello, your artwork, I've seen your profile and it is beautiful and you need to be selling it through me right now through the NFT market. And if you do not do this, then you are being a fool. Okay. Sold. So that's my rant, is why do artists have to be inundated daily with this? I saw one little post from this nice lady who's just like, I am married, I am old, I have grandchildren. Why are these people messaging me that they either want me to move in with them, move across country, they want to buy my work? Oh, my favorite thing is when I post a post and I say, I gave this to my daughter. And then the person will send me a screenshot and say, is this for sale? Is it for sale? Is it for sale? I love that I bought it or something. And it's like, so I almost wonder, are these like AI generated things? But if they are, they're not very intelligent. It's like artificial stupidity. Is that AS? Then maybe you just add another S on the end. I don't really know. So that is my rant for today. My top picks for today. I probably should have done top picks first. That would have been much more cheerful. Yeah, I should have done top picks first. I'll think about that next time. Like, yeah, always a little good and then the bad. My top picks. Warren's. It's local. So if you're watching this in another country, I'm sorry, you cannot come unless you come here. And then you should, because Warren's food is so good. He is only open seasonally, but it's literally, we can walk there, which for us is very special. If you know me, then you know I live in the foothills of the Adirondacks, and everywhere is a drive. If I want to get anything, there is a gas station that is like 10 minutes up the road, and they sell, hot dogs. They're hamburgers and cheeseburgers, I guess. They're like in a warmer. You get ice cream cones there. If you're familiar with Stewart's, then you know. But you don't go out to eat at Stewart's. You don't go grab a bite to eat at Stewart's. If you're a contractor, you do. So anyways, we're so excited that Warren's is open, because he's usually open sometime between March, April-ish, up through sometimes as late as Thanksgiving. And he is open usually on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes early as Wednesday on the week, just depends. And we love his food. It is so good. He's a nice guy. So if you are passing Warren's, which is by the flasher light there on Route 9N, then you should stop in and say hi. His name isn't Warren though, it's Chris. So the owner's name is Chris, but the place is called Warren's. So it's you can see it on the roof. His food is so good. But for everybody else who doesn't live here and who cannot enjoy his amazing chicken sandwiches or his poutine or his delicious vanilla soft serve or his juicy, delectable burgers, you are missing out. But I can give you something else. So I discovered something, in fact, today that is already such a top pick for me that I have to tell you about it. I discovered this YouTube account called Brady Brandwood, And he is a dude who 3 years ago, like, adopted a lobster from a grocery store and then raised it as a pet for 3 years. And it's really funny because I came across basically two episodes of his, the first one and the last one. And the first one is he brings it home from the store. But what was funny is, like, as I saw that one, like, the pop up next to it was that there was like an RIP for him because he had passed away a month ago. So, spoiler alert. Leon isn't with us anymore, but if you're interested in the fun story of a guy who felt bad about a lobster in a grocery store, he kind of wanted something for his tank at home, and he was like, you know what, let's just do a lobster. And he lived for 3 years this happy little life, and he had a name, and his name was Leon, and he grew to internet fame. So if you're interested in like some heartwarming binging, I would suggest checking out Brady Brandwood because it is such a cute story. I want to cover like a little bit of art history maybe, and I just want to mention my favorite artist. When I was young, I was inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe. I loved her work. I came across her when I was first 16 and I was taking art classes, and the art instructors introduced us to her. And I have been incredibly moved by her work. You can, sometimes people will say that they can see elements of her inspiration in my work. So I definitely encourage you to check her out if you've never heard of her. I know that sounds crazy, most people have, but if you haven't, she's worth checking out. One of her most known quotes that I have tried to live by my whole life is that she never let anything, basically, anything that she was afraid of, keep her from doing anything. And I live with terrible panic attacks, and sometimes I feel like my fears keep me from doing anything. But in reality, I keep that motto close to my heart, and even when I'm not feeling it, I'm going to get out there and do it, because at the end of the day, I never, ever regret it. So if you've made it this far, I am so grateful that you stayed. I enjoy you being here. I'm thrilled to just share a little bit of my space and my story and my life. If you have any questions, definitely pop them down in the comments. If you have any suggestions, if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them. If you're a fellow creative, a fellow artist, let me know who you are. I will go follow your pages. I will go check you out on all your social medias. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified anytime I have a podcast. I'm going to be creating playlists so that if you're interested in just YarnCast, you can go to that playlist. If you're interested in just the ArtCast, you can go to that. So I'm going to have that all set up, which I'm currently just setting up right now. I will have a website going in the very near future. I'll let you know all about that and the corresponding prints that we're going to sell. So just bear with me. It's very bumpy in the beginning, but just strap your seatbelt in and get ready for a wild ride, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope that you have a fantastically fun and creative week. Go find your inner child and share some joy and love with the rest of the world.